in the air.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, friends, welcome to the Joe Wordish and Shireen Hughes podcast. We have episode 22.
22.
Not 12.
Not 12.
She's
12
10.
me.
She's 10 behind because she started only when I was in at 10. So she keeps saying about episode 11. It was 21.
And every time I say it, he texts me and he'd be like, Shireen, it's 21. It's 22.
And then she posts something else and say episode 11. I'm like, it's not 11. Someone will go looking at 11 and they're looking at fucking, you know, coming in. And people think you're stoned. Fuck off.
Even the way I'm sitting, I feel stoned.
So episode 22 we're on, and we have the amazing Lynn Ruane, Senator Lynn Ruane, thanks very much. And obviously we have Shireen, and then we have Carl. Are you a producer now or an editor? What? You think so? You'll be what I tell you to be. I'm paying you. I'm only messing.
Carl's amazing. Lynn
Love
is
Carl,
amazing.
Lynn's amazing. So Lynn Ruane, I think you started off because...
Yeah, so first of all, absolutely delighted because
Yes.
Lynn is not only my favourite politician, she's my friend, and I love that she's here. So today, Lynn, we're going to talk about,
There's something in my eye.
Why?
No, really, it's not a tear or rat, and it wasn't like that great of an introduction. There's actually something in my eye.
Oh, getting all emotional. That
Sorry,
was
hold on,
brutal.
Shireen, stop.
Sorry, it must have been like an eyelash or something.
Oh my God, these are the best hosts ever.
Sorry,
You,
go
Lynn.
on, I couldn't concentrate
Come on,
because there was
right.
something stuck in
Something
my eye.
like
Now,
Go on.
when I say favourite politician, because people are probably like, oh, Shireen. The reason why Lynn is one of my favourite, because that's how I introduced her. Why are you looking like that for?
Oh, I'm looking at because you're asking nice questions.
Yeah.
Unusually. Yes. You're doing well.
Not
Keep
today.
rolling. Roll on.
So it's because I find Lynn to be very authentic, and she
Yeah.
stays true to who she is as a woman.
100%.
And a lot of people, she's very empowering to me anyway.
Yeah.
When I need her, she's there. But I mean, you know, when you go into that kind of arena, you turn into. I'm not saying this is not to down any politicians, like, you know. Well, there's a few that I would.
It's with different parties, isn't it? You have to choose a party.
No, she's
isn't it?
independent.
Yeah, that's
And
right, yeah.
she's just so authentic. And I find, like, everything about her, she just stays true
Yeah,
to herself.
100%.
And that's why I do say Lynn is one of my favourite. That's the truth. You're my favourite
100%.
politician,
Yes,
Lynn.
round of applause.
Well done. No,
Yeah.
she helps us all stay
No,
authentic, and it's something we
no,
talk about on the show
100%. It's
about trying to be real.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
exactly the way I would have viewed you even as senior, because I know you, like, you know what I mean? Obviously, and you know her as well. Our kids go to school together for years.
Yeah.
They hang around with each other. They fucking ringing me at 1 o'clock in the morning. Nightclubs like, you They do. Oh, Emma and Jalen, they're like, like, they fucking do. We'll be at a rave somewhere else, though. I'm like, they're hoping they don't bump into me. Do you ever go
It's
to
at that stage.
Do you know,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, go to a
Yeah,
rave and
it's
just
at
go
that
to one.
stage.
I remember going to it and they were like, are you going to that rave? I was like, yeah, you? I go, yeah. I go, so if you see me, they'll go, we won't be going near you.
So there was
We
times
see
where
you.
me and Jordan would be like, there'd be nearly like a network of people going, just so you know, Jordan's over there, and the other people, just so you know, your ma's over there, and be like, we just walk around. Like,
Yeah, keep over. Did she ever give out to you then?
no.
She was like, but ma, don't be going.
No,
near
I have to say they've always been pretty
Yeah, that's
cool,
good.
and
Yeah,
I've
that's-
never. Yeah, I've always been quite open, even about like
where you're
myself.
going.
Like so.
Well, at my end of it, of where I know where I'm going, talking about fucking nightclubs or going to the raves or whatever. It's not so much
Yeah.
like, but at my end of it, it's like, hang on, this is my scene.
Yeah.
You're coming to my
What are
scene.
you doing?
If I wanted
Yeah.
to joyf, I'll go with
Yeah.
my man. Or, you know what I mean?
Jive.
No, but that's before our time. We don't go, I'm
My
jiving
ma
now.
used to be in the playhouse with me on a Sunday night.
Yeah, what? She went live.
Every now and again, yeah.
There you
Drag,
go.
I
she-
used to love to play
That's
the
Yeah,
right.
she was in Scorebag a few times as well. Sorry, level 4.
Scorebag.
Where the fuck is
Scorebag is
Scorebag?
level 4.
Oh, Scorebag.
Did you ever go to?
Sticky
Did you
floor,
ever
level
go to?
floor.
No, itchy
Itchy
feet.
feet. No.
Itchy gee. Itchy feet. Sorry.
Oh.
No, it's called sticky feet or something. Is it
Sticky
itchy
floor.
feet?
Sticky
Isn't that what
feet.
Level Dundalk?
I never went to
No.
Itchy Feet.
What was the one up in the embankment?
Oh, that was
JJ's.
The
great.
banana, JJ's.
JJ's.
Oh,
and the blue
Safari
banana.
Nights or something, was
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, I
Well,
don't
that's
know.
not like I know
No,
what
that
said
was
that's
way
before
past
my
my
time, but I
time.
wouldn't have
Yeah,
been.
no.
I
But
wouldn't
I
have gone
did.
there.
I did.
Did
You
you?
would have been. You were going everywhere since you're 12.
11.
You stopped at
11.
11.
You were 11.
I swear to God.
Out clubbing,
yeah.
partying, yeah?
Yeah.
Sounds.
You've done
sounds
some,
fitting.
doesn't it?
Yeah,
Now you think
yeah,
someone squeezed
yeah.
a lot of shit into
11,
their
12.
life.
And that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying about
Yeah.
her. She just stays true. Like, there's no
course.
shit, you know?
Yeah.
And your two tally. And when I say it on your pure telly, you don't change
No.
your way of talking or that
No.
at all. And I would have, not saying I would have assumed that, but you know, some people do to take on this. Like, you know, people, you're talking to people from the Kilkenny, fuck off, you're not from Kilkenny.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I am from Kilkenny.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck off, you don't talk like that. Go, no. They start every sentence with, well. You know what I mean? So, but you don't,
Yeah.
you never change that about you. You
No.
see it up there, they
And-
say, you're full of tattoos now. You're tattooed, you're wearing proud, and you just talk the way it is.
And I think
that's why a
that's-
lot of people really love you, especially working
Yeah,
class.
I was just going to say, and I think it helps women like me and others to stay true to who they are, because
Yeah.
Lynn knows me, the work I do and everything else. And you always think you have to step into that corporate kind of person. But when you look at Lynn, and if any woman is coming up in any kind of arena where they feel they might have to do that, if you follow Lynn, you're probably like, oh, I'm going to stay
Yes.
who I am.
Yeah.
Because she's doing great.
And I think it is a decision to resist it in the beginning. You know, you have to make a conscious decision to go, you know, I might sound different or look different or dress different. But for me, I knew I'd be unwell trying to be someone else, and it didn't make any sense to me. I've always been very proud.
Yeah, of course.
Do you know,
it's brilliant.
always been. And same with, like, you know, always wearing runners or tracksuits into Leinster House. A lot more people dress more casual now, but 10 years ago when I was first elected, the captain would look like, you know, I remember having runners on my feet, and I had to resist that.
Yeah.
I was like, but that's not my
Sovereign's
uniform.
on.
Why would Why would I wear someone else's uniform?
Yeah.
Why would I be in a
exactly.
fucking suit?
Well,
You know?
isn't it a bit as well though that you've in it, because you've stayed true to yourself, that you've got
Yeah.
your rose.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? In
Yeah.
my eyes, now I'm probably wrong. You would have stayed to yourself, and people loved that about it. Do you know what I mean about you? Plus, you're very you have obviously great opinions.
Extremely opinionated.
No, and isn't it great though? Because your topics that you'd be on
Yeah.
about, like I love it that what you're doing with the drug and addiction and
Yeah.
mental health thing. That's fucking amazing. Like, that's just taking
Yeah.
a whole different level of two very serious topics that affects so many of us directly or indirectly, and then you're getting fucking, and you bring this up, and it really does. Like, my hairs are standing up the back of
Again,
my
I
neck.
think it's
That's-
because of who you are, Lynn,
Yeah.
and staying true to yourself, because not everybody goes right into that field. Like, you've really made a stand, let's say, when it comes to that piece about the drugs, and from trying to legalize in a sense.
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
it's something you'll
legalise-
explain.
Yeah, I'll explain it, right? So for me, I've worked in addiction for years anyway, before I went into Leinster House. But I've never, there's times where I was abstinence from drugs. Like, I mean, drugs are still a feature in my life. I'm not ashamed of people in my life and my community because they experience addiction, or I always try and centre the person rather than a behaviour, right? So if people are doing things, if they end up like with severe mental health issues and doing things out of character, it's always for me bringing it back to, you know, remember that it's not people, it's behaviours. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've never been ashamed of anything we've endured and experienced,
Yeah.
because the harms that are felt in our community, not the way like everyone says now, oh, but drug use is everywhere, and I'm like, you have to be very careful when you say that, right? Because even though it is, the harms aren't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so the type of drug use, the crack, the heroin epidemics, the homelessness,
Absolutely.
the violence, the young people dying. So when we generalise it out in this way, sure, everyone is taking drugs. That might be true, but the harms are different.
Yeah,
and the
very.
safety net is different.
Yeah. There's more support in different
Exactly,
areas that there would
exactly.
be, and there's money then to help people go into recovery.
Exactly, and you might have a job to go back into
Yeah.
because you've already got a degree, or you might come from intergenerational wealth or professionalism. So there's a safety net there that doesn't exist elsewhere. So for me, with decriminalisation, so to explain the two, decriminalisation is the decriminalisation of the individual who's in possession.
Right.
Right.
Where legalisation is a bit different, and so that there's like two conversations that happen. Decrim is me going, if Shreen is going down the road tomorrow, she's caught with 3E or a bag of weed or, you know, a bit of coke that is for her personal possession, well then she's not a criminal for the use of drugs. There's no society in the world that doesn't use substance for pleasure or for pain relief.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. The Inuits were the only society, civilization for a long time that didn't, but it's everywhere, whether it be from alcohol, which has the most health-related issues.
Nuts, isn't it?
But people end up being criminalised and shamed and stopped and searched who are struggling in addiction or, you know, and that affects you, that follows you around everywhere. So for decriminalisation, you're decriminalising the individual. So you're making it that individual. Now, the substance may still be illegal. Like the guard may still want to be able to take the substance off you. But they can't stop and search you on the suspicion. There's a thing called Section 3. Like a Section 3 stop and search, which is like on the suspicion that you may have a substance on you.
Right.
Now, not on suspicion that you have enough substance for sale and supply. Which is a different level. So for me, it's like, you know, why are we criminalising people who use drugs?
Who have an addiction. Who have fell into unfortunate addiction. Like, it's not an easy thing. Like, you know, so to be judged alone for being an addict and then arrested because you're an addict and given a criminal record because you're in a bad situation is really it's something people don't look at, but it's very important.
What the hell does prison do for
What is
drug
it
use?
gonna do?
Absolutely
Exactly,
nothing.
there's very
We've
little.
had prohibition in Ireland. So the way it comes, right, so you had Harry Anslinger and the Nixons and the Reagans, and you had this really racist America, right, who didn't want interracial relationships, say, happening because of marijuana might warp the mind of a white man. You might have sex with a blues singer or in a jazz club, and so you just had this racist agenda, which is classism and racism are interlinked in many ways, and you had this racism that was driven by America, and they pressured the UN to create prohibition around the world.
Right. Wow.
So we live under America's laws.
That's nuts.
That's
isn't it?
mad.
We live under America's racist, classist laws, right? Which was a group of rich, wealthy men that we see, same as the ones rule today, which are just dogmatic in their beliefs about punishing people, punishing people. So they pressured the UN. I'll cut a long story short. So they pressured the UN to get all countries and within Europe and stuff to sign a UN treaty that was around the prohibition of substance. Crazy. So in Ireland in the 60s, they attempted to bring in the Drugs Act, which is which I say, if we want to be anti-colonial and fight back, because we have England's Drugs Act, basically. We've loads of laws in Ireland that are a hangover from UK legislation or because they're common law and we're common law. So the Drugs Act is based on England's, UK's Drugs Act. And in Ireland, when they brought that in, there wasn't a big outcry about substance use. There wasn't a lot of people going, please lock up all the people taking drugs. It was literally the pressure of a powerful America that was racist and classist, that wanted to put people in prison and criminalise people. And what we saw happen in America was prisons full of especially the black communities, lives ruined, and then prisons becoming privatised, not run by the state, and big money.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? So
is that what most of them have been doing?
A lot of them are privatised,
Crazy.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Something that you don't know.
It's funny that.
And is that what brought you then to LA, Lynn? Is that
so? The one I went to New York, but it was with I'll give the LA connection now. So in the last, because I've been working on drugs policy for many years, both in terms of the criminal sanction piece, but also in terms of why people may use drugs in a problematic way. Not all drug use is problematic. Plenty of people use drugs and will never need help, never need intervention, right? So it's about going, all different types of drug use exist. Some people, unfortunately, will end up with, struggling with drug abuse, right? So you have to tease all that out. But I've worked on that for years and I still continue to, and I probably will be doing it till the day I die.
Hard fight, isn't it, really?
But then for years I've been trying to get people to have conversations about violence and also about drug dealing as well. Now they don't always intersect, but like the problem is, in about 2010 I done a piece of research with Dr. Fiona O'Reilly looking at drug dealers' views on exit strategies.
Right.
What do you mean?
So how they could see if they ever wanted to get out of the sale and supply of drugs, did they see a pathway for that?
Yeah.
So we went with middle ranking drug dealers, which we categorised as people who are not reliant on services. So not like a heroin user who's relying on a service and is selling heroin only for their sale supply, only for their own supply. But you could still be a drug dealer and use drugs, but it was profit making.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know,
it's an easy way of making money rather than
profit making. like, and not only yourself. Yeah. So, a lot of what came up in that research at the time was, and like 2010, so you're talking about 15 years ago. So like I was only 25 trying to have these conversations, right? And what came out with that was poverty being a core driver. And people growing up in big families, having to share clothes, not being able to, like, going without heat, going without food. And that was a core driver as an 11-year-old.
Absolutely,
was basic needs. Basic
basic
needs, right? And that grows and grows, right? So I just felt this stuff doesn't get actually teased out, because it's easy for governments to vilify a drug dealer and say, it's the scourge of society. And it's like, well, what poverty systems have drove the level? Now, there is people from more wealthy communities that are involved in drug trades at different levels, but primarily if you look at, say, young males historically getting involved, there was a core driver of poverty in certain communities and lack of opportunity and you know, not being able to finish school, there's loads of factors. So I wanted to have that conversation. So years later, in the last few years, there was a piece of research tendered for, which means it just went out looking for people who wanted to do the research, and you had to make a proposal, which was violence intervention. Right. Now, a lot of my work in drug services has been in Bluebell, Inchicore, Rialto, kind of south inner city, and I said I would, even though time, I wasn't sure if I could create the time for it because I'm so busy, but I felt if someone writes this strategy, it needs to be me. Yeah, brilliant. Because I need to come in with the reality of what violence means in particular communities, and some of the core drivers of violence. You know, so it's not necessarily gender-based violence, but you're looking at male-on-male violence, community violence. In a sense, it can have all different forms, and some of the core drivers, what all the research points towards historically, is that shame, humiliation, not being able to meet one's economic needs, as well as other intersection stuff with maybe mental health and stuff, not for everyone, but for some, maybe the core drivers of violence. So for me, I felt as a society, we focus on locking people up as a result of something violent they did, which is just the accountability mechanism, the justice and victims' rights and stuff like that. But it never looked at the broader, how do we reduce violence?
So go from the core instead of going, oh, well, this is how the solution.
Instead of like sentencing and prisons, that doesn't actually solve the societal issue. That just responds to the wrong that the person has done. So I done a lot of research. I found these amazing people in LA, and Keil Bashir, who died a couple of months ago, which was very sad because we'd been back and forth on the phone, and I was hoping I was going to learn from him. So he was a Black Panther, and then he was an LA gang member. And then Akil Shariels, who I'm hoping to bring over to Ireland to train the people we hire. He was also an ex-LA gang member. His son died as well by gun violence. And they've developed a whole infrastructure on violence intervention in loads of different parts of America, but especially LA and Newark, which is in New York. So I went to New York and visited one of the parts where, and it's people with credibility. So it's people that have been around the block doing violence intervention and paid to do it, may have spent some time in prison, may have been involved in whatever activity, but they have been trained to be able to respond at a community level to try and reduce violence.
It's crazy, and they'd be listened to a lot more than someone else that was just coming out and going, oh, well, I read the way they've lived.
You have to understand the climate in the community. You have to understand what's at stake. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I know you're going to go into that with us, but just for you, from where we're from, like, it's something that we, you know, when you watch that on TV, you know, that's kind of gives us an insight into what it's like in the Bronx, in LA, in New York, and all that stuff. How did that actually feel like, just being in the middle of that community?
Well, actually, when I went to Aquila and he's brilliant, right? And I went and met him, and we'd had some phone conversations and video calls, and when I was developing the strategy. And then I said, listen, I'm going to come over because I'd like to maybe just see the communities you walk in or get a feel. And I also went over to meet a guy called David Kennedy, who developed group violence intervention, which kind of has to involve the guards in one sense, but it's so the guards back off, so that, like, you may have, you can try, and the community can try and respond before there's a physical presence. It depends. It's hard to break it down and understand it. Like, obviously, if something has physically happened, you can't stop that. But he developed that in response with others to the high homicide rate of youth homicides in Boston. So it was called the Boston Ceasefire Project. So I went and spent some time with him and some others. But when I went into Newark, And I was like going, and I do like to get me steps and all in. So I was like, how will I get from here to there, right? So, yeah, right. So I was like, right, I'll get on this bus, and I had all the buses mapped out, right? And I love a map, right?
Yeah.
I had all the buses mapped out. And I said, it's going to take me an hour and 15 minutes to get here. So I'll leave and I'll go on the buses and I'm walking around these estates in Newark, right?
Amazing.
And I goes in, we chatted with him, and then he says to me, and then I says, okay, listen, thanks so much for your time. 2-3 hours have passed. And I says, I'll be in touch when I get back home. He says, where's your, have you got a driver or something coming? And I was like, no, I got the bus. And he was like, what? Oh, she's going to be grand, yeah.
You went and you just jumped on, went through the fucking...
He was like, did you not see all those cats out there? And I was like, cats? And I was like, this must be American lingo.
Yeah.
I just said, that's grand. I get this bus around there and that bus back.
That's fucking nuts.
I've just like, no. And
the thoughts of them would have said, the thoughts of doing all that is like fucking beyond it, because obviously you're from
Is it like a dangerous thing to do? Like, I know you did do it.
No, because you're not in the height of like a conflict going on. Of course, like I tend not to sieve. I tend not to have a good risk barometer. I think I've trained myself to go, listen, anywhere in the world can be dangerous if you allow your brain to run away with itself. Yeah. I was fine. I mean, it was like a community, but it wasn't. I then went actually to Brooklyn and sat in a community court for a day, which is for people who it's like a community sanction. So instead of going and getting locked up or going in front of like a judge in a district court or higher up, you get to go to a community judge. So that was a big community, a community that I was kind of just sauntering around. Yeah, but no, I always, like, I'm not like other, I don't, I go anywhere.
I think I kind of get that. I kind of get that. Like, don't get me wrong, if I was in a place where there's shootings, like, I think what you see on the TV is very different to your reality.
But isn't it?
But even when I went to New York, like, we went up to Queens and stuff. Now, not
you
that
Queens as well?
but like that, we got on the train, the underground. I did get a little bit nervous. There was like there was like a kind of gang at the end. They looked like a gang, what you would call a gang, but they were at the end of the train, and one of them
dancers, them fellas that make the dances on trains.
That's probably bad.
They look like proper fuck it, don't they all though? But then they start dancing.
I'm going to give you a laugh. This is God's honest truth. Niamh Gilson will be watching this. Me and Niamh, like, we're just there and we're coming back through Queens on the underground. We're going up to ground zero from Queens, right? Yeah. So we're coming up and we're on the train, and it's ridiculous, like, absolutely ridiculous behaviour. But this guy, he was a black guy, like, and, just from what you see from TV, now we're more aware. But he's like, he was lost, like, do you know where you're going? And I was like looking at Niamh thinking, he's going to rob us. Like, she's going to rob us. Like, this was years ago, right? Yeah. So Niamh was like, no, we're grand. And I'm like, sorry, I'm like from New York.
Did you do it? Did you actually do that?
Oh, yeah, we did. So Niamh was like this,
what the fuck,
looking at me, and she's like,
Shireen.
And I'm like, we're okay right now. And we're looking at this, the way there's a map on the tube, like on the train, there's a map. And I'm like, Niamh, we're going here. I was like, Shireen. And then he was like, okay.
See, if you did that in front of me, I would fall around laughing.
You're like, what the fuck?
I would be like, what?
So when we're getting off the train, Niamh is fucking crying, laughing. I'm like, no, Niamh, we had to do that. She was like, actually, we didn't have to do that.
No. See, I don't tend to like, I mean,
this was years ago. I wouldn't do it now. Do you know, just we're younger, sheltered. Like, it was a bit ridiculous, But it was some crack, but I get it. But I was never really scared of going underground.
Isn't it though, as I said, it's from where we're from that we've seen, and we've been around people, and we know the roughest looking people sometimes are the nicest people that's in the whole of it, do you know what I mean? And genuinely, so like, and I know someone else told me a story, someone would look at you from a different area of Dublin, and they'd clutch their bag.
Yeah,
and just going, that's not fucking.
That make you want to rob your fucking
bag.
Now
I'm not a robber, just to show you.
Just walking down the street.
Exactly. Now I'm not a robber, just to fucking show you.
Get her around there.
No, Jesus. But I think also as well is, I think I've always had this weird measurement in my head where I knew that the biggest threats to us were mostly white men in suits with power. Like, do you know what I mean?
Big
like,
time,
I can handle,
like the fat cats.
like I can handle. I'm kind of like, you know, no matter where I am, I'm kind of like, I could get robbed. Could not get robbed.
Yeah.
I'm just, well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you're well
I
able.
totally get it, and it's not because you're from talent and you're tough and you can fight.
No,
it's not that feeling at all.
No.
It's just like trusting
Yeah.
the community that you're in, and if you get through it, great, and if you don't, you're going to have an experience. But I've never had
I've never
walked
had a
through
bad
the rough-
experience
I
either,
lived around the corner from Summerhill a couple of years ago, and a lot of people used to say Summerhill this summer. I never had an ounce of bother in my life.
That's where I was in that homeless shelter. I was in touch with you, and you, fair play to you, put me in a few right directions and everything else. And I was right there at Maple House, and they're all sound, bang on. Everyone was
absolutely
it's just
sound.
And obviously then he had known me because I was doing gigs in the Laughter Lounge, which is only down the road. So a few of them, and also my name is the same name as someone that does like a local Joe Dowling.
Oh the community worker.
Yeah, the community worker, and everyone knows him.
Yeah.
Tell the and I've gone calling people. Tell them your name, are you named Joe Dowling? I was like, yeah, who's this doing? He walks in front of the funerals and all. Everyone knows him well, like. But that was like I felt well. And it's like as you know from everyone knows. Oh, you hear the Job's Town, Kinnairn Tala, Neil's Town. There's all these places have really bad names.
I've always been drawn
to them communities, and I do a lot of work obviously in them communities as well, because it's fine. It is where you find the real. I'm not saying anywhere else it isn't, but even Sheriff Street, like my ma used to walk down there every weekend. She'd do a demonstration down there, and they were so beautiful. So I think people just have a stupid outlook on disadvantaged communities, and I think...
Well, I would call them underserved and under-resourced. Because there's nothing disadvantaged about any of us, like, in terms of who we are, in terms of our humanity. All my good parts of me as a politician are from who I'm from. My loyalty, my sense of collectiveness. Do you know what I mean? Like my sense of honesty, my sense of truth. My ability for empathy, my ability for non-judgmentalness. You don't get the same level of that in communities that are so competitively trying to succeed in life. We need to be a doctor.
Step on everybody and anyone. You cannot say they all do that, but they would do.
But we have nothing to gain from each other when we were growing up, right? We had nothing. It wasn't transactional. You know, like the shit we've all done at each other. It's just like, do you remember you done that? And it's like, there's like the grudge holding in other communities is off the charts. We, for me, are the rawest type of beautiful people, nature.
100%.
That's true what they say, salt of the earth.
And I would give up anything to remain. If someone said you have to choose between all your friends and the people that you've grown up with and the best success in the world, I'd say take it. I am successful by just having the friendships that I have and the love that I have and being able to stay in Killarney and walk out and
I think that's where most of our passions come from, is the experience of your own community.
They don't find as well, because we've spoke about this as well, a lot of people have a big sense of community, don't we all get that in us, haven't we? Like I do feel like and we are reaching out. It's like, and going back to Una's story about Archie, like how many that was hard, like people that just, if they couldn't put their hand in a pocket, they were fucking doing something. Like, and that's what community we do.
It's
we're like that, isn't it? You
spirit,
feel that from everybody around you, like, and obviously, and even the ones that are at the being through the mill and on the drugs and did the worst things possible, that come out on the far side of it and go, you know what, that's where I was at a certain stage, and who I wasn't that person when I was in there fucking on the fucked up on drugs. But we have that.
It gives you a real sense of love and compassion. Like if you look back at, I look back at my parents, I'm sure yours are the same. It was always community. I mean, the little street parties, the getting together. It's what made us. It's what made us them people.
The three-legged races and all, in the middle of the field and all mad. Do you ever see the photographs of Talas? I look at the old school Tala photographs. I love them. They're all scarred. Black and white.
Remember the stock cars? Like the stock cars. If you're a joyrider, be a stock car racer instead. Like they always came together as a community to try and reduce crime, and then there was even your street parties, the mas going down with their trolleys to Jacobs to get the broken biscuits. It was just always lovely community, and I think that's what we all.
And you know the other thing about it was because it's all horses around us everywhere. Like if we had a horse, you had a horse. But like, isn't it? We went so far was they kept them fields and gardens and all. And a lot of it wasn't right, but the way it was being kept. But the communities came together and all. They did. let's go and get them stables.
And there was, and a few of the men would rent out their stable. But beyond the equestrian, some of the lads obviously had stables that they used to, if you could afford to rent one. It was only about 3 years ago I came home from a night out. It's about 2 or 3 in the morning. Came home to town and I was like, is that a horse? I was like, that's a horse. And I went down and I had its headgear on its bit, but it must have just managed to pull itself away from wherever it was, right? And I was like, I can't leave that there now. I don't know who owns that. So I brought it, put it in my garden.
Did you?
And I used to live with my ma.
Right, yeah.
So I did, and I was like, Ma, it was like a Sunday or a Thursday night. It was definitely woke the next morning. I was like, when you go out into the garden tomorrow, it's all right. There's a horse there. Don't panic. Just slip around it and out the gate. She's like, you're fucking 38. You're still putting horses in me garden.
Fucking
I
brilliant.
swear to God, it's just fucking priceless. It's brilliant. Because it's so fucking real.
Isn't it?
God.
And do you know what? As much I'm dying to go back to LA, and then there's another question I want to ask you about. Massive project that you done, and it was amazing because we went to the cinema to see it. But just back to LA really quickly.
Yeah.
Did you find that them doing their reduced crime situations, does it work? Like, is there a way that
there's
works?
massive statistics and evidence and research done on the different types of models that they use, and there's different threads to it, so it all has to be measured differently, but they've seen a reduction in youth homicides, incidents of violence related charges. So you have to be able to input a way to capture it. First of all, you have to be able to have indicators and stuff as to how to measure it. So there's also then a community's perception of safety. So you've real safety, and then you've perception of safety. So, but it's like what you were talking about a minute ago. You were on the underground, you saw a group of people, your perception of safety altered in that moment. But was your real actual safety threatened? Probably not.
And
right?
it's only from what you see on TV.
Yeah, but that's
know.
what happens in communities every day. So if there's stuff happening on the periphery of the community, you might get an older woman, maybe she lives alone, her husband's died, things are active, things look different than they did 30, 40 years ago when she walked the shop. There's more houses, there's more young fellas at the shop. She doesn't recognise them anymore. So her perception of safety is altered. Is she potentially at risk of violence? Probably not.
No.
But so it's like, how do you increase someone's perception of safety so that because you can still have a very physiological response, even if the hypervigilance is not actually met with that you're actually in physical danger.
It's great
but your body will still feel it. So it's like, you have to be able to measure, does the community feel safer because there's these programs running on the road, there's more street parties. Like I was suggesting mad stuff. I was like, do you know when we should go out to Dolphin House and we should have a boat racing competition down the canal.
Fucking race the dolphins.
Right? And they're like, what? And I was like, we should have like a festival where everyone builds little mini boats and we'll race them down the canal, and we'll start at Dolphin and we'll try and get it down to Bluebell, but it will be part of like its community. Like,
did that ever happen?
No, of
course it did.
I know that it will.
Jesus, loads of fucking cocaine has ended up in Bluebell.
Well, can you imagine them building the boats?
But that if you've more, I'd be thinking of all these activities you can do out and about in the community, because you know, you just get people out of homes. Like, it's like what you did with Sister Sheds. Like, when you can put people in front of each other, your nervous system regulates, because you're like, oh, I didn't think they were all right, or I was a bit afraid of them because all their kids are mad hyper. Like, you know what I mean?
It's so relevant. Like, it really is. And everything that we go through on a daily basis, you know, even my own kids and what they do and get up to, my youngest anyway. Whereas you know, people might have, like, without going into it, but people do have perceptions. But I know the heart of that child.
But do you not already look at that, like, when it was sort of, like, us as individuals? Like, I know even on my own, and I wasn't a proper little, but other people would say you fucking were. But, like, I knew I was a good person. But I remember it was the time we were getting, we were going to get a council, we were naming out for the council. I was got offered something in Knockmore, and it was refused. The committee was like, no, you're not getting a gaff in Knockmore.
What?
Yeah.
You?
No, I swear to God. Yeah.
Stop that.
No, you stop it. No, I swear. I was like, why? What was that? Because I smashed the window in the school years ago.
Stop it.
No,
I know he's joking.
No,
is
this is the truth. I was going. We had a name down for the council house, and a house. At the time, there was more houses available through the council, And it was like there was a house
Oh
at
my
Mockmore,
God.
and someone said out of the committee, and they would have been known him well, like known me and my man and the whole family.
see,
and
that's
all.
just
And I
silly
was told
stuff.
out straight. I was like, no.
So one of the
because it was when I
biggest-
little bollocks when I was little.
Yeah, but it doesn't even matter if it
mad,
was
isn't
a
it?
little bollocks when you were big. Do you know
No,
what I mean?
I
Like
know, but it
everyone,
was crazy.
housing is a core component of safety, right? So people have an adequate, good housing. There's also other stuff that you can measure, like in terms of just engagement in victim assistance. So say in Ireland we've done well, places have looked at like victims' rights, right? So
Yeah.
stuff around sentence and victim impact statements, stuff like that. But we've never really done victim assistance, and that's what some of this American, some of the initiatives in America I was looking at. So you may have rights being adhered to during, say, a sentencing process and stuff, or if you're given like a liaison person for court, them types of things. But then from there on, what happens, right? So you're usually your first instance of violence is never usually as the perpetrator, it's usually as a victim, right? And perpetrators of violence and victims of violence are not two distinct different groups. Like lots of us have experienced violence and perpetrated violence, right? There's usually a mixture of stuff going on there. So because we've often been victims ourselves, sometimes if we become the perpetrator, we are never afforded any sort of intervention for healing. But violence breeds violence. So unless you actually help victims heal, and same with financially, like if you have a husband that's died by violence or something in the household, like that household is down an emotional support for the rest of their lives. They're down a financial support for the rest of their lives. So they need victims assistance to make sure that that violence incident that they will probably never fully heal from, but it doesn't interrupt, say, a child's right to therapy, right to trauma-informed play, right to all these different things. So we don't do that. We don't do victims assistance.
And I would say 100%, I don't know how that happened. I would say 100% coming from my end of actually being in that situation, that it's a very difficult service to reach for. It's a fight. It doesn't stop. That fight, like 10 years on, you're still sitting there. And then, like you said, then the problem starts to come. And they're like, oh, I don't know where I am now because that was so many years ago now and my child needed that, didn't get it.
Exactly.
Now what am I going to do? And then it's like, oh, we might be able to do it now. And you're like, you know what? Years on now, you know, so now we're bringing the child all the way back, do you know, and
so and
it's
that's why
service.
like people are very good now at using language like intergenerational trauma, but they don't fully understand what that means. Like intergenerational trauma is exactly that. Your child or your loved one or your ma or whoever experienced violence, or if there was violence in the community or the home, and maybe 10 years later that intervention becomes really apparent, right? But the fact that it's at a distance from the event that happened, it's like people going, these things are all interconnected. They're all exist in the same space. So a part of violence intervention is making sure that victims receive the assistance and therapeutic intervention that they require, do you know? And then one of the Akil Bashir, who died last year, and his daughter, I think, is stepping into his role. He had this thing called the Build Programme, and he wrote this amazing book called Peace in the Hood, and in that it really outlines the type of stuff that he does. So like his violence intervention, beyond all the stuff I've mentioned, is also even much more hands-on in the sense that he will arrive sometimes if there's after being violence in the community, and if people ring him and say, sometimes he gets there before the police get there.
Right. Wow.
And usually that's
amazing.
and now we're different than some of them because they have sects and gangs. We don't necessarily have that. We just had a load of fellas that lived beside each other, went in the same class, right? So you know, there's not like
I get that.
you know, but like so in he would arrive in the book you read about it. He would arrive and he would determine, he obviously wouldn't mess with the scene or whatever, but like there'd be people around, and one of the biggest things to stopping violence, if something really extreme has happened, like a death, you want to make sure that you reduce the instance of retaliation very, very quickly. And that's being able to squash the rumour mill. Oh, I heard this. Did you hear that? I think, but you remember he had beef with him 2 weeks ago, and then the rumour mill grows and grows and grows, and then more people are in danger than and then papers add to that. Papers add to that by adding to the rumour mill, adding to the rumour mill, right? So some of the violence intervention work is about squash the rumour mill. So he would have meetings right up until now, like, do you know what I mean, until he died last year. So he would have meetings where the kind of responsible, reliable people, say within different groups, gangs, whatever they call them, sects, he would have round table meetings with them. Right,
amazing.
we need to establish what's happened. This is what's being said, and then people would go, "It wasn't us.
Right.
It wasn't us."
Yeah.
And they would actually have a whole meeting. Now, they wouldn't allow people into the room that were a bit flighty, so you wouldn't just have some 20-year-old trying to make it.
yeah.
So they would. There's a real established network that exists,
and there's people like pillars of the gang community.
Yes.
In a sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's difficult for some people to get their heads around because people are kind of going, yeah, but does that not mean you're condoning or you're accepting? And it's kind of like, no, well, actually, it's about reducing.
And especially because
death.
these OGs have lived it all, and most of them don't even want to see continued violence on it because they don't like their kids, they don't want to see them going through what they've done.
There's a real misconception that people that end up in situations of violence or in sale and supply, and they often actually say, the evidence actually says that a lot of the fights that happen aren't often over the drugs. Like there may be people that sell drugs within that space, but it's not always about that. Sometimes it's about relationships, families.
I was just going to say that. Yeah,
so, you know what I mean. So like it's about even understanding the fabric in which it exists.
Right.
And my overall aim, what I want to do, is really just get Ireland talking about how do we stop people experiencing violence at the rate that they are, and also our young people dying of violence.
I think it's brilliant.
Like we're all killing each other in some of the poorest communities, right? And all the mothers, like there's these mothers in the States and stuff that come out against stuff when it happens, like mothers that where their children have taken each other's lives and they work together with the same
and
message.
Say don't continue the violence, my son's being shot.
Yeah.
I don't want
now, in
to
saying
retaliate
that,
for my
America
son.
is probably, if not one of the most violent countries
because
in
of
the West.
Bombs, isn't it?
Do you know what I
That's
mean?
like,
You know, and there's this guy called James Gilligan, who is a psychiatrist in some of the kind of highest security prisons in the States. And I've read all of his books, and he works with everything from serial killers to more low-level violence, but like the right across the spectrum. And he's done loads of research. Yeah. And he has mapped back over 100 years. And he's taken in the Great Depression and austerity times and stuff like that in the measurement. But he says that under the Democrats and under the Republicans, nobody has actually massively reduced violence, but it increases under Republicans.
Really?
Yeah. So when you have law and order rhetoric, and when you have governments that are like, we are hard on crime, we will lock you up, we will punish you this, we will, you know, like at the minute.
Doing the opposite when they're saying the deterrent coming from that big hard on. Like
it doesn't actually help. It doesn't actually help. So there's you know, the example I always use is the guillotine. So people were literally beheaded on front squares. While everybody stood around and watched. Did it stop somebody going out the next day and hurting someone? No. So you can publicly behead somebody and it doesn't. So you have to be able to separate the punishment of an individual from a crime from how do you create safer societies as a whole. And that's, I suppose, what I'm trying to get at.
Do you think is there many now with you in the government that want to? Or are you trailblazing at the moment alone? Because that is trailblazing stuff.
I think there's lots of people in Ireland that I like the Justice Department have funded the strategy. So when I've written the strategy and I handed it over to the canal communities. The canal communities, Bluebell and Chicorrialto, they put in a proposal to the Justice Committee under the Safety Fund. So basically that would be money that comes in through CAB and stuff. And I think all CAB money should be put into initiatives in local community. No. It's also put into other initiatives.
So anyone else under the age of a certain age, CAB is the Criminal Assets Bureau, isn't it? So they take the money that's taken from crime, including high-power cars and shit like that. I believe some of the guards kept the cards, but they used the cards from Limerick gangs.
Did they?
That's apparently because some of the gangs already had these bulletproof. They already paid for that BMW's Bigfoot, and they got them seized. Now this has gone back fucking probably 15 years when it was set up originally, and they had got all these cars and they used them to set. They got guard on them. They use them for it with the ERU, the emergency response unit, whatever they are.
So like it's there is politicians that understand it when you speak about it academically or something, right? And then, but politicians respond to what's happening in society in any given moment. So if you have a very high profile instance of violence in the country, politicians will respond to that rather than go, yes, we need to address that. But that doesn't mean you ignore everything else. Do you know what I mean? So unfortunately, politicians are reactive.
Trends. They're going for trends of what's going on.
Rather than preventative.
Right, okay.
And what is it that you need behind you for this to
Well, the canals, hopefully their pilot will, the Community Foundation of Ireland also gave it some money. So at the minute they're advertising for a project manager, which will be trained in high-level violence intervention. We're going up the north as well. I've a relationship with a man up there called Jim McCarthy, and he's brilliant. Like, he set up Restorative Justice Ireland after the Good Friday Agreement. So lots of work around paramilitary. So when you look up at the work in Northern Ireland, who actually some of the guys in the States came over and done work historically. There's a connection. So the north of Ireland actually probably understands violence intervention much more deeply because of its history than the south of Ireland. So I definitely think I can tap into that a little bit.
Isn't it? And the fact that they got integrating the communities.
I just want to go and do all this with you, Lynn.
She's a moocher. Don't
she's my friend.
She's your friend, but
you are the type of personality as well. Like, I think you have what I have, and we're looking for something very special in someone where, like, I often have calls with people that have been highly involved in certain activities throughout the country, and like, I ask them for advice on stuff. I'm saying, if when you were 20 and if I had came to you with this, what would this happen, that happen, and they've been, when I developed the strategy, I made sure that I met with people that were involved in all different levels. I went into the prisons, I worked with young people, I worked with older folks. Everyone fed into it. Everyone fed into it. And the thing is, I'll ask the question. I'll kind of go, but you remember you had that beef with your man 15 years ago. How'd you sort that out? And the two of you are still alive. Do you know what I mean? You kind of need. You do. You kind of need someone to kind of go, I'm not going to enter the world of secrecy with you. Let's figure this out. And I think there's lots of people in Ireland like that. And hopefully we find them to be part of this project.
Yeah.
Sorry, wasn't going on your mooch with a way because we were slagging you earlier.
No, I know, I'm
joking. But
I think I think it's definitely a drive. It's either in you or it's not. Do you know, like, for me, when I was speaking to someone there recently that goes to prisons, and as you know yourself, Lynn, I was saying to you, I'm mad to get in just to speak to the women. Do you know, just to hear, like, I think. Look, not everyone is going to agree with you. You know, people are like, they're in prison, they need to be there, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying they don't, I'm not saying they do. Do you know, but what I am saying is that we need to understand and we need to hear. Like, you know, a mother is a mother, a woman is a woman, a sister is a sister. There's so many different aspects of, in the women's prison I'm talking about, because I haven't been in around the men's, and I suppose with sister sheds, it's a mission to try and get in there to find out. More about the women and see is there anything that we can bring to the table, being the organisation that we are. But I think, like, just when I listen to you, Lynn, it is that it's a drive of change. It's wanting to make things better. Do you know, we do live in a society that is what you're talking about. And we either sit there and say and do nothing, or we get up and say, do you know what, I'm going to take a gamble here. And I think what you've done with the research, and I'm not just saying this, leave it in, take it out of the podcast. I think what you've done with your research, LA, these people that you're meeting, getting all this information, and you're very academic and more intelligent than I am in any sector, but I think what you do for our communities is absolutely amazing, and you need a massive 100%, round of applause 100%. For that. And that's not just blowing smoke up your
but I would
ass.
also just say I'm not more intelligent than anyone. I think as well it's also, like, I've had some opportunities that I've managed to take advantage of, which means I have somebody that works in my office and can take some of the day-to-day stuff, so I can focus very heavily. I think we all have that capacity.
You're right.
But we have so many things that we have to do in a given day, like our kids, our families, our home, 2 jobs, 3 jobs. Like, everyone is working so hard. And I think the reason why I've been able to go head deep, apart from the ADHD and hyperfocus and specialty interest, I'm like, drugs, violence.
I want to be in the middle of that.
Like, ask me to do something else and I'll just go, what?
No,
Do you know what I mean? So
enough,
it's interesting to me, so I'm able to focus on it. So it's less about intelligence and more about...
Even if we take the academic piece out, I just think you've done amazing work for our communities, and that's why 100%. I love that you're on this podcast, and I love your authenticity about who you are, because you stayed true and loyal to our communities and to our people and to who we are. Like you said, we've all experienced madness, and you just stayed there. I'm very proud of you.
Have you been? You must have been into the women's prison, have you? Have you been into?
So I mostly work in the men's prisons.
What's it called?
There's the Docas, and then there's Limerick as well. And is it only Limerick and Docas? I think it might be only Limerick and Docas. No, is there a female wing on Cork? Anyway, definitely Limerick and Docas. So I have been in and out of the women's prisons, but in I've worked in addiction since I'm 17 and community work as well, and women's lives are so complex in terms of the shame that they endure as mothers as well. Like if you're a woman and you go in and use a service, they question, like, where's your kids?
Wow.
But a man could walk into a service and he's not getting the same level of judgment, right? So there's always this fear amongst women around being judged not only as a woman but as a mother.
They take that
Very
up
deep.
less then.
Yeah. So no, it's not that they take it up. It's that because it's not my full-time job to work in the prisons, I don't want to go in half given like doing a 6-week initiative or something, you know, because I'm in the chamber, I'm over here, I'm over there. But the men I've always found easier to work with, easy in terms of their personalities and stuff. But I think I have quite a male presence as well. I've always been quite boyish. My humour has always been quite male driven. Do you know what I mean? If there's such a thing, but I've always
You're easier to gel in with lads and stuff.
Especially when I was younger, like the humour will bounce off each other and stuff. So I just sometimes avoid doing some of the initiatives I do in the women's prison because I can't commit a year to them or something, and I think they do. Like some of them are doing life sentences, and not because they've been given a life sentence. But because the revolving doors means that they've accumulated 20 years in the prison. Like if you go into prison as a woman, you may come out to your DCC after taking your flat. Like, really, tell me how that person
happens.
And like another thing that I just want to point out that you said, because it is important, and women do watch this, and they do carry a lot of shame before they go for service or before they come for help. And I know this from working with Sister Sheds, wanting to reach out for a hand, wanting to speak about their situation, but fearful of, I'm a mother, can't say that. Because if I say that, she's going to contact this, they're going to get me kids, that's going to happen, the house is going to go. So instead of being able to do that, that prevention for them, or that help, give them that help, we need them to be able to come forward, say it's okay.
Women put off getting support.
Absolutely, because it's not going to affect with their own.
So that's why I try to support some of the other initiatives that are in the prison more full time, like the Sail Project has an initiative. The Sail Project is an amazing project in the inner city that works with women. I was trying to link in with
what do they do?
Sail, they do all different stuff, but they've one initiative in the prison. Is it called a I can't remember how it's pronounced, and they do a lot of work in the community. So it's acknowledging that, I suppose, a lot of the women are in addiction or have had histories of addiction, and I've had, obviously, they do lots of different initiatives with women specifically. It's a women specific. Same with Jane's Place is a kind of newer one with Merchants Quay and stuff, but they kind of unpack all of that with the women and kind of really empower them. There's some amazing articulate women in there that have been on panels with me in relation to drugs policy and stuff. I think often the state thinks that people that are in particular services or maybe have had particular histories or past, it's like when they consult with them about policy, it's just to tick a box. It's kind of like they extract, but you have the likes of Ishka who and the European network of people who use drugs. So you have all these networks of people that either still have lived or living. So people talk about lived experience as if you have to be this healed, finished product, when actually just people that have living experience, that are living it, that have the deepest analysis of society, that have the deepest understanding of how criminalisation impacts them or housing policy impacts them. So it's about their analysis being central rather than seeing people as only their experience, but actually people have, I always say, and a friend of mine, Michael Barron, I remember hearing him say it years ago, and I was like, that's exactly it. People closest to the issues are most likely closest, are nearly always closest to the solution. The problem is we don't have the power and the resources, and you have a state then telling us what to do and how to do it.
It's unreal.
But we know it intimately. We have the answers. The problem is we don't have the fucking power.
No.
From a state perspective.
Absolutely, 100%. And that goes even with funding and just everything, even anything we try to run through the sheds for empowerment or coming forward.
You're begging for nothing.
Begging, and there were so many pilots that we have.
Shouldn't have
so many pilots that we have to try and help. Like, we're only helping. We're not, like, it's only gonna make it better. But it's
but they started to see like you can't measure human interaction in that way. So like states and departments and stuff, they kind of want to go, well, how many people did you see, and how many people are now in a job, right? As if it's an economic output. When there might be a mother that engages in a sister shed that says, well, I don't want to go back to work yet, or I'm not ready for work, or I don't want to work, I'd rather focus on my kids. But her transformation in the space of a year engaging something might be, I'm able to go up now and be regulated in a parent-teacher meeting.
Absolutely.
Right? You can't put that on a funding fucking form, because they won't they don't recognise it. Or you might get a person who was intravenously using drugs, was really struggling, was out of the family home, and now they've reduced their drug use. They might be on another sort of maintenance program, and they're actually back in the home. Like, so that might be the measurement. It's not that this person is now in this job. This person is now substance free. You can't measure that.
It doesn't seem so black and white. It's beyond that, isn't it?
People have to be able to define what quality of life looks like for them.
Do you think, though, as well, like some people then knock that sort of stuff back, like that you're going, like, obviously it's obviously it needs to be done and all, but I remember going in to do the comedy in Mountjoy prison, and someone saying to me after the gig, I was doing the stuff about doing the bingo in Mountjoy. It was a funny bit. It was in a couple of times. They're like, why are we going in? Why should they get fucking bingo in Mountjoy? Where are they having that day?
I've just put on
question
shows
is, why
in
shouldn't
Mountjoy.
they?
So the thing is,
no, of course, because we want people to be like, you want the rehabilitation and come out on the far side. It was actually the Board of Education that put this on. The boys did that leaving cert and that junior cert, and it was that certificate day, and they had this, and the warden was there, and Anne from the Board of Education, they were all there, and we went in as comedians. They asked for a comedy show, and we thought it was great, and they fucking loved it. It was one of the best audiences. But people said to me after, a few people said, "Oh, that's fucking bullshit going on there. Why are they getting comedy?" Do you know what I mean? Which I thought, fuck off. Like the whole reason we want people going to prison.
But see, the thing is, if you want to reduce crime, poverty, if you want people to be able to do well when they get out of prison, punishment is your deprivation of liberty, right? So it's like, what else goes on in the meantime should be about how do we help this person? So some of the men that I've worked with, their main goal is, I just want to do no more harm. I don't want to do any more harm. So like what I said earlier on, that people's experience of violence, a lot of the men that I worked in the prison with who have perpetrated violence, some of them have come from very, very violent experiences already, so to actually get in there and heal some of that may mean that they go out into the world, know their value and their worth, be accountable for what they've done, and also then integrate in society in a way that they do no more harm. Our goal as a society is, how do we reduce harm? How do we live a life that we all are proud of with value? How do we mind our families? How do we feel safe walking around? You don't do that by treating people like monsters.
No, of course not. It's crazy though, people that actually has that view. They have that view.
No,
like,
but
they shouldn't get on.
I think in reality of that as well, without contradicting any of that, because I absolutely believe that. You know, I do believe in healing, I do believe in reform, and I do believe as a society, if we're in a position like yourself, like me, like you, going in, to be able to reduce the element of violence is massive, because none of us want to live in a violent society, right?
Of course not.
But there's also then, if we come on the victim side of things, that when you have had somebody do your son wrong or do you wrong, that lock up or that put them away is a safety mechanism for the victim now. So it's very, you could speak on both sides of it.
But you see, that's conflating the idea that saying that people should be have access to regulation and healing somehow takes away the justice piece. So the justice piece still has, like, people still have to be held accountable if they've hurt someone. So they're not. It's saying that when the justice process has happened, then what do we do?
Absolutely. No, that's what I'm saying. So then, when
so
the
what you mean is like
then,
the victim is going to go, well, ask me bollocks, where they haven't
like, I think for the victim to know that healing process is like what Lynn is trying to bring in, and we know that there's some new system now where it's a reformation. It's not just leave them in, because either way, if somebody hurts somebody and 5 years later they get out, there's no difference in that 5 year safety feeling. Like if I'm a victim and I feel safe for 5 years is great, and then 5 years later Joe is getting out. Oh my God, no, Joe. Now this is fear factor for me straight away. So what I'm trying to say is, speaking on the victim's behalf, also it's a good intervention for the victim and the abuser.
Knowing
if I'm making sense in that, am I saying that right?
Yeah, that's when there is like an identifiable victim. Like sometimes obviously violence is wider than that, and it's not like individual to individual. But yeah, it is. So it's
community violence. You know, like if there's someone that's always on a rampage in a community, and you're like, oh, I'm terrified of him now. You wouldn't look at the community. So but if he's going to get out, so when he comes out back into our community. No, we feel okay. Well, or he's going to show us that. I get it.
See, and then the thing is, we don't want to give some false perception that the prisons are a hub of rehabilitation, because they're also not, right? Prison is automatically bad for one's health in many ways, right? It's also extremely overcrowded. Right now, you have people sleeping on mattresses. So you have people, actually, they say, that the statistics say that around 70% of people in the prison system at the moment in Ireland have some sort of substance use. I don't like the word disorder, but some sort of substance use issue. And then around 70% potentially also have undiagnosed neurodiversity or intellectual disability or learning disability. And an even higher number than 70% have not completed any state exam, the state exam. So when we talk about poverty, it's hard, because when we talk about people in prison, there's people that are in prison that have hurt people. So you're constantly balancing those two things. But when we look at poverty, we look at the poorhouses, we look at institutional survivors, we look at Golden Bridge, we look at all these places, and you take one institution and you look at the statistics, and then you look at this other institution. So, you know, we could focus on the individual in this conversation, or we could go, what are the conditions in society that keep repeating this outcome for people? For people who end up hurt by violence, dying by violence, we're not serving them by not actually creating safer societies, by not actually investing in communities, reducing poverty. If you take it out of the individual instance of me hurting you and take it back to what is the container in which this is all happening, and how do we end that cycle? And so that's what it's about: safety for victims, safety for families, safety for the whole community, and in some instances, victims and perpetrators are the same person.
Do you feel that's got? Do you personally feel that's going to be a long road?
Yeah.
It's not.
But
something
is it
that's going to
doable?
Yeah, it definitely has to be doable.
I think so. If enough people, it's not doable just by me talking about it. I think,
of course, getting people talking about it, getting everyone in.
On the advisory group for the violence intervention doesn't mean that people don't have access to justice. The justice piece is separate. Like if you've violently hurt someone, the justice piece happens. Do you know what I mean? It's more about the prevention.
The prevention before the cure. Absolutely.
And then retaliation. So if something bad has happened and you haven't managed to stop it, it's like, how do you stop the continuation of that and stuff? And the advisory group that the Canals have put together is pretty amazing. So you have an academic who, he's a criminologist, he does great work on restorative justice. You also have a person who's not long out of prison, he's doing his masters in UCC, who was locked up for violence related stuff, but also has his own history and past in terms of what he experienced. Then you also have a person who was a victim of homicide in terms of their son. So on the advisory group there's 10 people and they span right across.
Brilliant.
So you're making sure that you have a full rounded insight,
all the big problems.
It's amazing, because I think the cure does come from, if you look at now in society, like the people that have been in addiction that turn their organisations into rehabilitation or community support or connection. People, women that have been through grief, or like say us, me and Rachel, even having lived in certain circumstances, is what brought us to creating the sister sheds. So to have them people in them places is so important.
Of course.
Like even listening to that guy, he's out prison, he was violent, but now he's working on masters and he's helping write the script here, nearly trying to anyway. So it's amazing. I think what you're doing is fantastic work.
And that's only scratching the surface of the shit that you do.
I could sit here and talk all night to Lynn, but one amazing other thing that Lynn did do, because I am aware that Lynn has to go, she created a movie, Ready or Not. and it was in Bluebell, and myself and Jay went. We were invited by
Deadly.
Lynn to go and see
Nice.
go and see the movie, and it was just, I felt like I was back in time the whole way back. I was just like, oh my God, this is mad. It's just, it was amazing. Tell just a little bit about that.
So the first film I wrote was a short film, which is like about 12 minutes, which is called Waiting Day.
Right.
So it was to capture a moment in time of a woman waiting to be paid by social welfare, and
familiar as that for fucking
It's so familiar.
Wednesday.
But it's brilliant though that you're just nailing that.
So I wanted to, in that one, I wanted to capture the love that exists even if addiction enters the household. So I think sometimes writers that are not from and don't have personal experience or insight in some way and have analysis, they can make out as if like get the fuck out of my house, but actually like breaking up a family can be one of the most difficult decisions that's being made in the household. And I wanted to capture the intersection between poverty, drug use, and then a woman's need to protect her two young girls, but also having to put the man who she loves out of the house, and it captures that. The second one, Ready or Not, which you seen, was a feature film, so that's a full-length film.
Brilliant.
We had a premiere in Piccadilly as well a few months ago in London. And that was about sexual consent, and it was about teenagers, and it was kind of coming of age. My conditions when I write is that we get to authentically portray who we are in terms of our accents, what we dress like, all of that type of stuff. So the talent that exists, as you know, in our communities in terms of humour, depth, the emotional depth to portray a character is off the charts. And you get a lot of people saying, oh, well, there's just not enough working class actors, so like we had this posh guy put on this terrible accent, right? And it's kind of like, what are you talking about? There's not enough actors. You haven't created the space. You haven't. So when we done the Maureen Hughes done the cast, and you know, we linked her in, and the director and the producer is amazing. So like they drove I suppose the principles that I always wanted. They were the perfect people to do that because they protected that. So we were out on the streets. They were in Ballymun. They were up the back of Cushlawn. We opened up Bluebell Community Centre, 100 kids. But in the ad, it specifically said authentically working class.
So they were just kids from the community.
Do you know? So seeing a little clip on that, and the actors and that, it's like that.
It's 100%. Before,
no.
Like
so I'm writing a new one. I got a small development fund for a new film, which is why I thought I was getting clipped coming into this car park. Because
he's explaining about the car park.
When you come in, it's like a little driveway up. There's a big steel gates, and it's just trucks everywhere. I was like, oh my God, the time has come. But it's also me going, the perception of safety. I've been so knee deep in the violence work, right?
You just manifested.
So, but in the script, that I'm writing at the minute, and I'm just about to submit the next draft of it. Hopefully, it goes on to be made. Not everything goes on to be made that you get, initial early funding for. But it is a support program for drug dealers. So it's really dark humour, but with lots of psychological depth and lots of morality in it. But it kind of is set in the community of Saint Rita. So my granddad used to pray to Saint Rita, and I never really understood why, because most people prayed to and done their novenas to Our Lady or whatever.
Ask Anthony to find
so I've gone on a big deep dive of Saint Rita. Now I wouldn't be a religious person, but I'm symbolic. I like symbolism. And I found a few bits on Saint Rita. There's not loads, but basically she was in she wanted to be a nun, and I don't know whether the nuns rejected her or her family didn't let her go, but she was forced into a marriage, and he was extremely violent to her, and he was eventually murdered, and her two sons wanted to avenge his death, and she wanted to stop the cycles of vengeance. And her whole commitment was to stop them and to kind of introduce this radical forgiveness, because she wanted the violence to end with her husband. She didn't want her sons to carry that on. And I was reading this going, Jesus, this is maybe me granddad knew I was going to do this work. So I'm writing the new script at the minute, and I sit in a parish called St. Rita's, so that kind of acts as the container.
I'd be looking forward to the invite as well.
So hopefully
that's well done.
Just really quickly on the Ready or Not cast, how are they doing? Like, are they going on to do more?
Like some of them are in loads of stuff.
Brilliant.
Ruby had done one piece beforehand. She played the lead role. Lewis is doing loads of pieces. They're all kind of, apart from one or two, like one of them went on who'd never acted before, didn't even realise he would like it, went on to do a course.
Deadly.
Do you know what I mean? So and the one of the things about it is I wanted to set it in a community, but I didn't want us to use budget like for, you know, like commercial porta cabins and stuff to set up production, because there's a big, huge production involved. Everything from set designers to like everything. So we redirected what would be usually spent on, say, renting space, went into the local Bluebell Community Development Project. I went into working. They used the school when the school was closed during the summer, so the school became a site of film production.
That was the location,
and then like, you know, if you use someone's house, you would pay them to use the house. You know, the local gardener was asked to be paid to cut certain grass.
Oh, I just love it, Lynn.
Two of the men that don't work a contract during the summer because school bus drivers get let go in the summer. They were like security and do you know what I mean?
That's
like
brilliant,
like so it was.
So the money was already being used for it. It's gone back into the community already
just
straight
basing
away.
everything on the community.
That's
again,
brilliant. So
like
well done on that.
amazing.
And you're going on to I'm sure you're going to fucking write way more, and you'll continue because you're only a young woman. And and even I'd be watching you. I just want to go because I love watching you, and you're in the Shannon and you're full on, full tilt. Do you ever get heckled?
Yeah, well, like, I mean, yeah, like I get heckled more in an international space sometimes when I'm speaking up for, say, Palestine and stuff, but that was very early on, just post October 7th. But inside, yeah, like, I mean, I remember once or twice someone trying to come in and I all of a sudden get very taller. Like I remember my staff do sometimes go, Lynn, look at this, and I'm like, yeah, what are you saying? What are you saying? Do you know what I mean? And like there was one time this fella, one of the senators came running in, we get a good giggle over, right? Because I'm like, yeah, that's how I carry myself. Like you don't need to duck under your bleeding seat. Like so like this fella came running in, senator came running in, he started shouting at us for tabling too many amendments. I'm like, that's my bloody job, like, do you know what I mean? So I was like, and I stood up, what? Is your fucking chicken going cold in the canteen, is it? You know, because he had to keep coming up to vote. And they start banging the yoke saying, unparliamentary language, unparliamentary language. And I was like, what, chicken?
She's just saying it.
So sometimes I'm only cracking myself up, and then I'd be like, is that not even funny in here?
It's not nice though, is it? It's not nice though, is it, getting heckled? Do you remember heckling me in the laughter lounge?
Yeah, but that's because I tell you we're disowning culinary.
No, it's
it was before I was medicated for ADHD. I couldn't wait for the punchline.
Yeah, we saw Amanda laughter lounge. You were in with Jordan. She was in with Jordan. She at the back. Sure, Lynn, what's the story? How are you? I was like, yeah, I'm on stage. So when I obviously did do the joke. I am from Knockmore, Killinarden, by the way. But the joke doesn't work. Like, you can't say I'm from Killinarden, I have no job. The works like that. But to lead into the wheelchair walking town bit. And I was like, oh, yeah, no the way to say you're from jobs, then you no job. She's like, you're from fucking Killinarden at the very back, getting heckled by a fucking senator at the back of the laughter lounge. And as soon as I knew it was you, and I was like, that's fucking Lynn Ruane shouting up, you're from fucking Killinarden at the back. I went down and said it. So I had to ask you, did you get heckled? So thanks very much for coming on. What an amazing guest.
All night, yeah, we could have.
With the time ran out ages ago. I was watching at the
Love
time.
Island All Stars is on at 9 o'clock.
But
is that what you want to go and have?
Seriously? What a fucking Love Island. But you know what, we could talk
I'm
so
also
many
bleeding
things.
bacon in this tinfoil jacket under that light. I like a fucking turkey over here.
I know, I could, honestly, because she's a woman of many talents and so much going on.
Yeah, we wanted so many subjects you could touch on and touch base with you. And we did a lot there about what you were doing a lot, walking about, which is great. And integration and rehabilitation and all that. And it's great because we'll definitely get you back. Will you come back then towards
would you come
just
back?
after the summer?
Yeah,
or something,
when
maybe.
the title of the podcast is changed to the Joe
we
and
know,
Shireen
but we have to go
podcast.
down with that. We need to.
Look, see, she's me friend.
We've already spoke about this. Don't be fucking heckling me again.
The Joe Irish and Shireen
podcast. It's going to be. We need to get the photograph. Carl, when are we going to do this photograph? No, we said this ages ago. We need to bounce in. You need to bounce in. Wednesday, we'll bounce in. We do a photo op and we change it all up. No, 100%. Listen, she's an amazing host. I'm glad I got her on board for it. And we'll get you back in.
Of course.
One more. Lynn Ruane. Lynn Ruane. And then obviously give it up for Carl over there. Carl, amazing. And then we co-host Shireen Hughes from the Joe Irish Shireen Hughes podcast. Thanks very much. And I'm Joe Wirish. Thank you. And we'll talk to you next week. We have Al Gibbs on. Thank you.
Thanks.